Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, it's safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 243 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this show is to help improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-stress, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SAMatters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from my office in St. Paul, Minnesota, having just returned from Fort McMurray, Alberta, where I presented 15 programs on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for oil refinery operators at Syncrude, Canada, and 2 additional programs for first responders throughout the region. The inspiration for today's feature segment actually comes from a discussion that I had with one of the oil refinery operators during one of those recent programs I was delivering at Syncrude. This operator was relatively inexperienced and had only a couple of years on the job, and he was interested in some advice about how to accelerate his experience. Given the high-risk, high-consequence nature of the work that the operators perform, I can certainly understand his interest in getting smarter, faster. Before I jump into today's feature segment, however, I want to take just another moment to mention a special offer for enrollment in the SAMatters Online Academy. First responders receive little or no training whatsoever on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. And this might be funny if it weren't so tragic. Did you know that issues related to situational awareness and flawed decision-making are among the leading contributing factors in near-miss and casualty reports? And many times the issues that led to the casualties could have been avoided if the responder or responders had developed and maintained strong situational awareness. And I'm on a quest to fix this problem, and I really want to help improve your safety and your decision making. And I truly believe that you share the same goal: to go home to the ones who love you most. I've put together an incredible offer for organizations that are now extending through the end of the year. Your agency can enroll up to 100 students for a flat fee of $2,999. Let me give you some perspective on just how good a deal this is. The regular tuition for the Academy is $199 a person. Even if you enroll less than 100 members, that's still a great bargain. To learn more, visit the SAMatters.com website and click on the green box on the right side of the homepage labeled Online Academy. And if you want to enroll or maybe just have some questions, just send me an email at support@richgassaway.com or just give me a call on the phone, 612-548-4424. Remember, this offer expires on December 31st. Okay, let's jump into our feature segment, a discussion on how to accelerate knowledge development. As you can imagine, in a high-risk, high-consequence, time-compressed environment, we depend heavily on situational awareness to help guide our good decision-making. It's logical that the better you understand a situation, the better your decision-making will be. But the truth of the matter is you can have terrible situational awareness, horrible situational awareness, and still make a great decision. We call that luck. And I think if you're going to make high-risk, high-consequence decisions in time-compressed environments, programming out some of the luck might actually be to your advantage. So I want to talk about some ways that you can actually accelerate your memory. We depend heavily on memory to help us to know what to do in high-risk environments. And that memory comes from a variety of inputs that we store in memory over the course of time. We have two kinds of memory. We have cognitive memory. That's the memory of what should I do, when should I do it, why should I do it. And then we have the muscle movement, or what's sometimes called the kinesthetic memory, and that's the memory of how should I do it. So when you're in a high-risk situation, you're going to tap into your memory stores, and your brain's going to do a search of long-term memory and your short-term memory to try to figure out what to do. It's going to search conscious and subconscious memories. And in fact, most of the memories that you store are at the subconscious level. It is estimated that the average person can only consciously recall about 5% of their long-term memory database, which means about 95% of everything that you've ever learned and experienced is actually stored in the subconscious. So those subconscious stores of memory are what are called scripts. Think about it. Every time that you've ever driven a car anywhere, your brain has stored some memory of some portion of every driving experience. So long as you were conscious, alert, oriented, scanning around, some of that trip was stored in memory. Those memories of those driving trips, for some thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, are scripts stored in the subconscious, readily available for recall to help guide you on what to do when you're driving. So when your conscious mind drifts away and you're thinking about something else or carrying on a conversation with somebody, your scripts can send messages to your muscles, that is your muscle memory, and say, the light has just changed from green to red, take your foot off the gas, put it on the brake, and when the light changes again, the message will be take your foot off the brake and put it on the gas, and you drive the vehicle a lot of times without really much conscious thought or consideration to the act of driving. So how can we store these subconscious scripts about the work that we do in high-risk and high-consequence environments? Perhaps the first and most logical way to store the scripts are with first-hand experiences. Actually having events occur to you that you then have to respond to and make some decisions. Those memories are some of perhaps the most robust memories able to be recalled because those are the ones that often have the most emotion attached to them, whether they turned out well or they didn't. And the emotions help those memories to be able to be hearkened up quicker in recall because of the attachment to not only the lesson, but the emotions attached to the lesson. So first-hand experiences obviously are one way to store those scripts for recall. The second is second-hand experiences, actually learning from those first-hand experiences of other people. Finding those people who've had events that have occurred that you have not yet experienced, and asking them questions about what happened and how it happened and what they did and what they learned from it and what they might do differently. The key to this, and pretty much all the non-first-hand experiences, are that you immerse yourself emotionally in the actual experience that that person is telling you about. In other words, if they tell you about something where something went bad and as a result that person who's telling you the story almost had a tragic consequence, I really want you to feel what they were feeling when they were in that moment of high-risk decision-making. Again, you're creating an emotional attachment or a tag onto that memory. And then be sure to ask them plenty about the lessons they learned, the things that went wrong, and what they learned from it. You know, a lot's been said about we learn more from the mistakes that we make in life than the things that we do right. You can actually learn more from the mistakes that other people have made as well, and store those into memory as subconscious scripts. The third, and this is a powerful way to build experience, is something called mental rehearsal. Mental rehearsal means practicing high-risk, high-consequence events in your mind, imaginary, as if they're happening, but they're not really happening. They're imagined. So let's imagine that you work in a chemical factory, and you're walking along doing your routine work and your routine rounds, and all of a sudden you stop and you look off to the side and you imagine that there is a leak of a chemical. We'll just call it ethyl methyl kill you quick. And the leak is happening right there in front of you unexpectedly, and then you have to figure out what to do, how to react to that leak. So you might then, again, this is all imaginary, pause, think about, if you have a radio, how you might report it, what you might say, how you might say it, what that person might say back to you in the form of questions, how you might answer those questions, what kind of alert you might sound to bring the attention to others that they might be in a risky situation because of this maybe toxic vapor cloud that is building. And then what actions you would take, whether you would take actions to try to stop the leak or evacuate yourself, or perhaps find a breathing apparatus to don, whatever those steps would be if you found yourself unexpectedly in this period of high vulnerability, what would you do? And you're just kind of doing a mental rehearsal of the what-if experience. So then as you continue your rounds, and you might invent in your mind another high-risk, high-consequence event, a period of high vulnerability. Over here, there's a fire. How would you react? What would you do? What would you be thinking? What would you be saying? How would you be behaving? What decisions would you be making? And rehearse that. And these rehearsals get stored in the subconscious memory as scripts. The more emotions you attach to those rehearsals, the more robust those memories are stored because of the attachment to emotions. So the key here is really must immerse yourself in the event as if it is really happening. In other words, vividly imagine yourself in the moment with the consequence that if you get it wrong, something tragic could happen to you or to others, and mentally rehearse these. Doing these mental rehearsals over and over and over again will help to build subconscious scripts. And then when that day comes, when you're on your rounds and you happen to come along a real leak of a toxic substance or a real fire, mentally you could actually say to yourself, this is not the first time I've ever experienced this. I've experienced this many times in rehearsal. I have practiced through this. I know what to do. I know the steps I'm going to take. I know the actions. I know what I'm going to say on the radio. And it'll reduce the stress of the actual event when you're not caught off guard or surprised by it being the first time that you have ever experienced it. When I was first promoted to be a fireground commander, one of the best pieces of advice that was given to me by an experienced fireground commander was to mentally rehearse commanding fire incidents. And what he suggested was going around to different buildings in my town, starting with the ones I have the greatest concern for, and backing into a parking spot across the street and imagining for myself that the building was on fire. Where would the smoke be coming from? The flames? Would there be people trapped? Where would the fire apparatus be coming into the scene from? Where would they be laying their hose lines? Where would the firefighters be advancing into the buildings? What concerns would I have about their safety and well-being? What kind of traffic would I be hearing on the radio? What would I be saying? And I would literally sit there and mentally rehearse these fire scenes. And then when I got to respond to real fire incidents, it wasn't nearly as stressful for me because I had mentally rehearsed the what would I do if. And that's what you're doing when you're doing a mental rehearsal. You keep asking yourself, what would I do if this? What would I do if this circumstance? What would I do if this were happening instead of it was just happening a moment ago? And the better you get at this and the more often you do it, the more complexity you can build into your what-if scenarios, which will help in not only memory, but it'll help you in your critical thinking skills and your resilient problem-solving skills. Number 4, near-miss reports. If your industry has near-miss reports that you can learn from, take those near-miss reports and all the detail that they offer and imagine yourself in the actual event itself where the near miss occurred, including sights, sounds, smells, sensations, emotions, the radio traffic, interactions with people. Imagine all of that when you're reading a near miss report as if you are really the one experiencing the near miss. Again, you're loading up scripts of knowledge in the subconscious from the lessons learned from those near-miss events. Number 5, casualty events. If your industry has a database of line-of-duty death reports where you can access them and learn about those who have died on the job, then you're learning some of the most valuable lessons about how people get into catastrophic situations, and reading about the lead up as to how that had happened as the events unfolded, and then the lessons learned in the aftermath of the event. Again, immerse yourself as if you are really there, really experiencing it, really part of the event. Maybe you know the person, or pretend that you know the person who got killed, so that you have an attachment to that event happening. You're not just reading it as some third-party observer. Again, the emotions help the lessons stick into memory. Number 6, simulations. You can use simulations from software, or even if you don't have access to technology, creating manual hands-on simulations where you can actually work your way through a scenario, given the setup for the scenario and then the circumstances, and then you're actually vaulted into the position of having to do the scene assessment or size up, and then the decision making. And depending on the fidelity or the complexity of the simulation, you may also then have to take some actions to practice what you would do if in that certain scenario. Remember to perhaps create stressors like noise, lights flashing, buzzers sounding, smells. Try to make the smells as realistic as the smells would be in the scenario that you would be facing, so that you're tapping into the multi-sensory inputs, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling. Feel the emotion coupled with multi-sensory input really helps simulations to seed into memory and to be scripts that can be recalled in high-risk, high-consequence environments. Finally, number 7, actual training. Creating training scenarios where the workers practice the steps of how to maneuver through high-risk, high-consequence, decision-making environments. And training a lot of times is learning it for the first time, and then you retrain in repetition. In other words, do it the first time, performance not so good. Do it the second time, performance improves a little bit. Do it the third time, performance gets even better. And training is just a matter of practicing the cognitive skills and the muscle movement, muscle memory, kinesthetic skills to be able to perfect your performance in a high-risk, high-consequence environment. Remember to build some stress into the training scenarios as well. To train in low stress, but then to have actual events be high stress is not the same. You have to create the stress environment as close as possible to what you would experience when a real event occurs. That's called context-dependent learning. Create the contextual environment around you to be as similar as possible to the real environment. So let me sum up those 7 ways to enhance your learning abilities. First-hand events, second-hand events, mental rehearsals, near-miss reports, casualty reports, simulations, and training.
Welcome to Chief Miller. Chief Miller operates the largest social media page dedicated to the men and women of the fire service from around the world. Check him out on Instagram at Chief_Miller. Find him on Twitter at Chief_Miller. And check out the website where you can find Chief Miller Apparel at chiefmillerapparel.com.
Since 2007, Situational Awareness Matters instructors have helped more than 1,200 organizations and over 70,000 individuals improve high-risk decision-making, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, medical professionals, utility workers, highway workers, public transportation operators, aviation workers, oil refinery operators, and more. If you work in a high-risk, high-consequence, decision-making environment, we're here to help improve your safety and your survival, and to help you accomplish the most important goal of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you.
I think Rich's ability to connect with any crowd, that's a gift that he has, and it's easily transferable.
This is the second or third time that I've heard him speak. There's some teeth to the information that he brings.
It's been really good. Good mixes. He knows when to throw in a joke here and there to get you back involved.
Some tools. I'm a new lieutenant, so very, very interesting. And some of these things I can take back to the station and use with some of the new firefighters I have on my crew.
Something to get you thinking about your job more, big picture type stuff. I've seen him before. A good review for sure.
I have heard him before, yes. After he speaks, there's usually an enlightenment because now they're more aware of what's going on around them and what they're experiencing as they respond into calls.
He's very, very knowledgeable. I'm enjoying it so far.
And that intuition, that's a big one. The video that he just showed up here, we're getting a lot out of this. I think this is a really good seminar, especially for new people and old. So I think it's very informative. This talk gives us more ammunition to do all three.
They're relatable to what we have experienced or very well could experience, so he makes it easy to let the knowledge sink in.
I mean, it's awesome. A lot of stories you can usually relate to yourself and calls you have been on, aha moment. Like, he just helps you focus on picking out the right things. It's awesome. It's a refresher and keeps my eyes open. It's good stuff.
If people listen to the message that he has, it's an incredible message delivered by a very compassionate person. Strategy and tactics are going to always change. Situational awareness it doesn't change. It's always there.
He's got some good stories to tell, and he's very thorough with his stories, and it's interesting listening to him.
Very clear speaker, and he talks on our level because he's been there, he's been in the trenches. I think he's doing well at it. I'm looking forward to the second half.
I would like to take a moment to thank and honor the companies, organizations, agencies, and departments that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters training for their team members. The Anderson County Fire Department in Anderson County, South Carolina. The University Heights Fire Department in University Heights, Ohio. The International Association of Fire Chiefs Volunteer and Combination Officer Section Symposium in the Sun in Clearwater Beach, Florida. The Rogue Interagency Training Association in Medford, Oregon. The Shoreline Fire Department in Shoreline, Washington. And Syncrude, Canada, oil refinery operations in Fort McMurray, Alberta.
Real expectations, because SA matters.
Know your limit. Know your partner's limit, because SA matters.
Assumptions are bad. SA matters.
Proper PPE is important, because SA matters.
Flawed situational awareness is a really big deal. SA matters.
Know your water supply, because SA matters.
Bears and Cougars, SA matters.
Go versus no go, because SA matters.
Confidence is good. Overconfidence is bad. SA matters.
Buddies matter, because SA matters.
SA matters. So don't get angry.
When the pigs are eating lemons, SA matters.
Our academy class is going home today because we know that SA matters.
SA matters! If you're interested in attending one of our upcoming programs, here's where we're going to be next. January 3 through 9, we'll be back at the Syncrude Oil Refinery in Fort McMurray, Alberta. January 12, the Quad County Fire Chiefs Association in Lewiston, Idaho. January 15 to 16, the Pearland Fire Department in Pearland, Texas. January 26, the Toledo Fire Department in Toledo, Ohio. February 2 to 3, the Missouri Winter Fire School in Columbia, Missouri. February 22nd, the West Virginia Emergency Services Conference in Pipestem, West Virginia. February 25th, the Grand Rapids Fire Department in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. February 26th, the Hibbing Fire Department in Hibbing, Minnesota. February 27th, the Mountain Iron Fire Department in Mountain Iron, Minnesota. February 28th, the Lutsen Fire Department in Lutsen, Minnesota. March 5 and 6, the Baytown Fire Department in Baytown, Texas. March 7th, the TEACS Product Development Center Technology Conference in College Station, Texas. March 12th, the Maryland Fire Rescue Institute's National Fire Service Staff and Command Program in Towson, Maryland. March 25 through April 3, the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard and Oahu, Hawaii. To see the locations of all the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events, just head over to the SAMatters.com website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Live Training Dates. If you're interested in hosting a program, just click on the Contact Us tab on the top of the SA Matters homepage and I will give you a call. If you want to become part of the SA Matters community of learners, there are a couple of ways that you can do this. Just check the show notes for how to get connected with us on our newsletter subscribers, our podcast subscribers, and our social media channels of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. There we share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve the skills of critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Well, that's it. Episode 243 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you to our awesome sponsors, Midwest Fire and Chief Miller. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, organizations, and associations that have hosted Situational Awareness Matters training programs. Thank you to all the organizations that have hosted a live, virtual, internet-based training event where I come to your organization live via the internet to train your entire team. Thank you to the more than 2,500 students and graduates of the highly acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. Remember the enrollment special that I offered at the beginning of the program, and that's running through December 31st. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.